Welcome back to Frontlines and Faultlines with Mike Kelly. We're very fortunate to have with us today Maani Taghizadeh and Minoo Taghizadeh, who are both public officers with the Iranian Australian Patriots Association. And they're really interesting from the perspective of these are educated people who have received also a lot of the impacts of the regime personally while they were living in Iran, and it'll be wonderful to hear their voices about what life was actually like on the ground. But Maani is a graduate of Ferdowsi University of Mashhad, which is in the Khorasan province, Razavi Khorasan province in Iran. And Ferdowsi University was actually named after a famous poet, Abu Qasim Ferdowsi Tusi. We have had Maani's experience of the best that the Persian tradition of education has to offer, and also with Minoo too. She was a graduate of Aalborg University in Denmark. So we have a fine example of that Persian tradition here of respecting education and the culture. So look, if we can just get a bit of that story of your life in Iran, perhaps, and particularly Minoo as a woman, and what we've seen with the woman life freedom movement in Iran, perhaps you could explain to us your personal experience in Iran and how the regime is treating the people of Iran.
So let's just take a step back in time. I'm going to start with the audience, whoever actually hearing us, that's introduced the Islamic Republic of regime in Iran at the moment. It's a suppressive government that's occupied the country since 1979. And they always violated human rights, freedom, and democracy in Iran. So beside the internal oppression, they actually had a well-known supporter to support terrorism, such as Hamas and the other militia in the Middle East. So in this scenario, imagine the life for the women and girls under the Islamic Republic regime could be under the very strict law, and I would say gender-based discrimination for the women. I'm going to give you an example. Like the women in my country, they don't have freedom. So, for example, like they have to have to wear mandatory hijab, and they have to they have the dress code. So when they're coming in the public, another example I can say it's I would say in the law, under the law of the Islamic Republic of Iran and Sharia, so a woman testimony in the law legally valued as the half of the man's testimony. So imagine the other things. If a woman wants to travel to abroad, they can't do it by themselves. They need a permission from the father or husbands. When you're gonna get married, there should be a permission from the father or brothers. So imagine in this actually situation, how would be under pressure the life for the women. The woman always being like tortured, always being like arrested by the police if they didn't wear the proper dress code as the Islamic Republic regime actually built for this country, built for the woman in this country.
And what is that
So,
dress code, Minoo? What are the requirements for
like
women?
you have to cover. It's a mandatory hijab, fully covered, And there's something called in my country called chador or manto. Yeah, it's a long dress, or you have to cover with the black chador. So no matter what religious you have, you are Jewish or Christian or
Doesn't.
whatever, doesn't matter, Baha'i, you have to obey the rule. If you don't, they're gonna arrest you in the publics, especially the morality police. As you may know, in 2022 and 13th of September, Mahsa Jina Amini, who visited Tehran with her family, being arrested by the morality police. And then the witnesses, they took her to the police van, and the witnesses claimed that she has been severely beaten by the police. And then after a few hours,
2 days.
she fell off in the coma, and after 2 days, she died. I would say they murdered her. But this is not actually new in my country. It's happened during these 47 years after revolution. So, and during all these times, I would say maybe I'm jumping to this right now, which the war happened between the Israel and Iran. People in Iran chanting and shouted and asking for Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi because he is always supporting women's life, women's freedom, and democracy and secularism for Iran.
Yeah, that's a shocking story that really does illustrate the situation of women in Iran. I think Maani Minoo, she was from a Kurdish background, I believe, and so
Yes.
the situation of minorities also gets surfaced in that story, as well as I've been reading about the large-scale systematic executions in the so-called justice system in Iran that's leaving aside murders like what happened to Mahsa Amini. And so I think they only rank second to China in the number of official executions that are conducted every year. And that seems to have really dramatically escalated in the context of women trying to assert themselves and their supporters in Iran just recently with this Woman, Life and Freedom demonstrations. And, you know, what's been the scale of the support, I think, for that? Do we know, like, is it broadly supported in Iran, the Woman, Life, Freedom movement?
Yes, actually, that movement now, after happened by the murder of the Mahsa Amini in the custody of morality police, it was a trigger. I believe that many Iranians believe that it triggered a national revolution all over the Iran. So before that, some people, maybe some Iranian inside and abroad, they believe that this regime can be reformed, some sort of, reformists can do that, and gradually, establishing democracy and freedom for the state of Iran, which is now many of Iranians, more than 90% of Iranians believe that it's impossible. If a regime not reformable within 4 decades, how come can be done after that? It's impossible to make a brutal ideological, religious dictatorship change or convert to a democracy. It's impossible because DNA of this regime is tied to hatred to Jews, is hatred to Christians, hatred to the own people. Look at this. Look at the regime structure. Many Iranians believe that this regime, there is no sign of Iran in this regime. Look at the name, Islamic Republic. Look at the flag, their flag. Their flag mentioned Allahu Akbar in the middle. Allahu Akbar is an Arabic word, not a Persian Farsi word.
Right.
And you can see the Allahu Akbar in the red and the green strips. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar is not Persian word. So how come In an Iranian flag, is a Persian flag, there is no word in Farsi, in Persian. Look at the IRGC name, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. There is no name of Iran. And look at the official, look at the Khomeini, those fake guys, those, puppets. Looks like a president, which is a puppet of the leader. Those guys, they are not encouraging the tradition of Iran. They are banned many Iranian ancient ceremonies on the streets. Nowruz, which is a very the most famous, and all over the country, there is no sign of the Nowruz in their wordings, in their speech. It's not the Iranian regime. It's a theocratic Islamic Shia regime who never think about the country, never think about the future of people, never think about the infrastructure, the development. Just one thing: suppression of his own people, and encouraging and spreading the hatred all over the Middle East, supporting financially, logistically all terrorist groups around the Middle East, like Hamas, as my wife said, Hezbollah, Houthi, and Hashd al-Shabi in Iraq. They spending billions of dollars for them. They spending billions of dollars of the Iranian nationals' funds for the nuclear, activities, which is now is destroying by the Israeli airstrikes. Billions of dollars wasted within a week. How come we Iranians can support them? We Iranians now, many of them, I'm saying not more than 90%, believe that this regime has to be gone.
Right.
There is no way. There is no way. There is no such, political idiots around the world saying, go to diplomacy, make some, negotiation, stop ceasefire. It doesn't work at all. The center of evil, the evil has to be gone now. And this is the golden time to be eliminated.
Right. I understand too that Iran pursuing this nuclear weapon objective with the impact of that cost and, of course, the sanctions regimes that the international community have been applying to try and stop that it's cost the Iranian economy over $1 trillion. And so that must be impacting the daily lives of people on the ground, making their lives so much harder. And what was your experience personally of being in Iran? Was it, and the presence of the moral police, like the besieged militias and whatnot? What was it like living in that world?
Can I say something? So these days, the national TV of Iran, they propaganda that Israel is our enemy, and they want to get rid of Israel in the flag forever. That's what they assume. That's why they're thinking, okay? But we believe, people in Iran believe, our enemy is in the country. Our enemy is not inside, which is Islamic Republic regime of Iran. So regarding what you said, I'll give you a few examples. So I have midwifery degree from my university, my country, and I had to actually, I've been fired because I disobeyed to wear the mandatory hijab. So I disobey actually to follow the rules of Shia. So the other example, in 2022, when the Masas movement happened, I have a younger sister in Iran, and she's being kidnapped in the street by the morality police, or women being kidnapped. You can't find them. So you don't know where they are. So what happened, my family just looking for her everywhere. And they were devastated at that time. We didn't have any idea where is she. So after a few weeks, they found her in one of the private jail, which is called, I don't know what's called in English, I would say, but like it's called Etalat in Iran.
Security forces jail.
Yeah, it's a private one. No nobody knows about. So, and when they want to take someone, like after she's being tortured. So these things during these 47 years don't know what to do. These days, what they want to do, they want to get rid of this regime because they believe people in Iran and people in Israel, they are friends, enemies here in the country. So you ask about what we're feeling when we're going out with this morality police. I've never been saved when I go out. I've always been stressed. Have I come back home or no? What's going to happen outside? So because sometimes like these days, they actually stop you in the street and they asking you questions. They question you very privately. And then if you have another idea which is not alongside with the Islamic Republic regime, they would take you to the jail or they would take you to for questioning.
Right.
So for how long, you don't know. No one has an idea. So it's not safe, specifically for the women and girls when they're going to the street.
Mm-hmm.
That's the every daily life in Iran.
Right. And for you, Maani, what was your experience? Did you run into problems even when you were at university, or what was the life like in terms of the free exchange of ideas and an open discussion?
I can say my own experience when I was studying and after that working in the working area, workplace. In the university, you are not allowed to talk about the politics, especially if not, pro-Islamic, policies or something, criticism, their policies against anti-Semitism, against, they saying our enemy is America, that's to America and that's to Israel. And if you, criticize those issues, it's very problematic for you. And they maybe there are centers in universities, in workplaces, called harassed or some security questioning. You have to introduce yourself to those, to those centers and explain why you are saying this, why you are saying that, why you are, criticizing the policies of the, of the regime and the government. And it would be very, very, if you repeat again, if you do not follow what they saying, it's banned. It's very, very serious for you. From the university, they maybe, fired you from out of the university. They stop you, you keep studying at the uni, or maybe they questioning you in the security, centers, maybe going to the jail. I don't know. If you have an interview, if many, I know many students, they had some a simple interview with the foreign media, and they, because of that, they question and they put them on a jail. And also in the work, if you are not very careful about what you are saying, maybe they fired you, maybe. And if you are not to stop those things, maybe it's very, 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 serious for you. And they put you on a jail, some sort of questioning, some banning your social freedom, and stopping your bank account. Many things can be happen for you if you say something which is not aligned with what they want to say, to hear. It's the same. You have to only follow or listen to the propaganda, listen to internal, media and the TV, all of the TV channels in the Irani's government. There is no private, media. There is no private under their control. Specifically these days, within the 2 decades, is under control of the IRGC. IRGC has many people in Australia. They're saying IRGC is a military force. No, it's not. They are like an octopus. They have some arms controlling the media. They have some companies. IRGC has like a mafia. They have plenty of more than 800 companies registered under the IRGC. IRGC registration. They are under IRGC. Many many, construction companies, many medias, many newspapers, they have plenty of things. They're making movies. Who knows? The IRGC making movies, like controlling the propaganda. And
Right.
that's like a I can say it's very similar to Nazi in Germany, like a Gestapo, and
Hmm.
they have hidden, police. They controlling, they spying between the people. Maybe a taxi driver is an agent of the IRGC. You were saying something in a taxi, and then you can see another phone call from the security, officer. You need to come over and explain what you. Oh, how come? I just explained to a taxi driver. How come? It's like a Gestapo, like a Nazi. Living in the Islamic regime is very, very hard and serious for your, for
Hmm.
your future.
Right. It just amazes me when I saw all these student demonstrations here in Australia and them not realizing that if you tried to do that in Gaza or in Iran, it would not end well for you. And in
Absolutely.
particular, now we've just seen LGBTQI group coming out and supporting Iran. And so, can you tell me what their situation would be in Iran? What happens to LGBTQI people in Iran?
Um, I would say they've never been accepted by the governments because they always want to deny there is no such things.
Yeah.
They don't exist. We don't, and I remember probably um, 10 or 12 years ago, back ago, our president had a speech regarding this matter, and he said, in our country, we don't have any LGBTQ.
Right.
Sorry, honey. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Right.
He was, if maybe you remember him.
I think that was at Columbia University, wasn't it, that he said
Yeah,
that?
yeah. He said to the reporter, he said, there is no gays in Iran. There is no gays.
The government actually denying these people how life would be dangerous for them.
Hmm.
So if they say, for example, if they found that two body they are gays or two people they are les or they found them, they definitely uh, arrest them and put them in jail. So for this reason, so many of LGBTQs in Iran, they escape from the country because they want to save their life.
Hmm.
They went to the neighborhood, yes, and they stayed there because this government, to being a gay or lesbian or transgender or whatever,
Hmm.
it doesn't exist and it's illegal.
Hmm.
And you have to always, even the family. I remember one of my friends, their family always being worried about her because she feels, and she found that when she turned, I think 12 or 13, she found that she is lesbian. And they always being worried about her if she go out.
Hmm.
And I remember after a few years when she turned 18, they have to actually send her to other country because they could not actually save her life when she go to street.
Right. So they also, I've seen images that have been smuggled out of Iran of LGBTQI people being hung from cranes, from gantries. And so they seem to be regularly executing them. Is that correct? Or
Yes, it's correct. Actually, based on the Sharia, based on Islam, if you say I'm a gay, it's against the Quran, against the Sharia. It's uh, otherwise you need to hide yourself, to hide your,
Mhm.
sexual, attitude underground, or you never say I'm a gay. You should never say I'm a lesbian or transgender. Never say to anybody. Otherwise, it's very, very serious for you because I see, because it's a religion system. It's a religious. They running the country based on religion, not
Mhm.
based on some elected representative of the nation. It's
Mhm.
based on, actually and really, it's based on religion. If anything banned in religion, you have to follow it. For example,
Right.
you are not allowed to eat a pork, you're not allowed to drink alcohol, everything. And believe me, many Iranians, they do all of them on their house, but
Mhm.
they are not allowed to do on the public. There is no
Right.
liquor shop,
Right.
but there are plenty of liquors, they distributing
Right.
underground. So it is a very, very simple in a society. You don't have
Right.
even a simple, social society, what to drink, what to eat, and whatever.
Mhm.
It's it's a very, very simple example of a dictatorship,
Right.
especially thus the religious version, which is very, very bad, the
Right.
worst type of dictatorship.
So if you are homosexual or lesbian and you've been uncovered, you do run the chance of end up dangling from one of those cranes and being
Yeah,
executed.
definitely.
The
Right.
consequence would be execution from the government if they find it. But let me just add something else. Unfortunately, because of this situation in Iran, I would say the suicide statistic is very high because imagine when people find that they're not being accepted by the society and they don't have any right by this government
Hmm.
and even in the community. So it's end up to a mental health problem. You are going underlying the health condition when you have such a thing, when you're feeling always, or you're not
Hmm.
accepting by the friends, family, community, such a things. So that's why the
Hmm.
suicide is very high in this criteria, unfortunately, in my country.
Right, because it would be very hard for them even to find like-minded people they could have relationships with. And you'd be afraid to actually say anything to anyone, I imagine.
That's it.
And even there is no actually health services to help them.
No.
Right.
There is not because they, from the base, they actually denying this such a thing's not existed.
Hmm. Right. And so you left Iraq in 2008, Maani and Minoo. When did you leave Iran?
We came together as a
Right.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So you were both married in Iran.
We migrated to we
Yes.
married. Yeah, we married and both with our little kids at that time.
Right.
My elder son was 3 years old, and my daughter was 8 months,
Hmm.
8 months old, and we left the country in 2008 altogether. And, and we left our family, both myself and my wife, all of them now living in Iran.
Right. Right. So you must be very worried about them in this situation, but just generally with
Yes.
knowing the conditions over there. And I imagine that there's an issue if you speak out against the regime, you have to be worried about the impacts on the family at home as well.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Exactly.
And when you've been, you came directly to Australia. I know that the regime has a long reach, and we've seen the activities of Al Quds Force operatives and IRGC people who have, they attacked the Jewish communal facility in Argentina and 85 people were killed. So they're more than happy to engage in activities outside of Iran as well. How fearful are you about, speaking out and about, what the consequences could be and whether you're being hunted by them?
Actually, all of those activities abroad by the Islamic regime and IRGC, when we were living inside, they were saying that it was not us. They denying that those terrorist activities not is not caused by the Islamic regime, just caused by others, like I don't know, maybe Hezbollah or maybe the Zionists. The Zionists have done just by themselves. That's
Mhm.
looks like a propaganda for the internal usage to say to the people that it's not by us. But as long as the internet is spread out through the country, many Iranians they got access to the internet. They can get the truth. They can realize that all of those activities is happening regime agents or supported at least by the regime. And now many Iranians they know that they spread out Instead of spending the fund of the people inside and improve the infrastructure of the country, such as power plants, renewable energies, water resources, and investing on oil and gas industry as well, which is we are a very rich country in gas and oil reserve here. We are the second after the Russia. So instead of those activities, they spend the fund of the country on those activities abroad, spending money and developing this lot, sending logistic. They train them, sending some assembly some missiles inside the Lebanon, and making the tunnels in Hamas. They all of those tunnels, which now destroyed by the IDF, all of those tunnels funded by Iranian people fund. The Gaza people, they have no, fund. You're begging the other nation to give them some food, and so on. They were they are before the attack by the Hamas. They were working inside the Israel in the farms. So all of those infrastructure for attacking to Israel and making and suffering them is funded by the Iranian people through the Islamic regime. So now Iranians, and I hopefully the community, international community, understood that this regime is a threat to the peace and security especially in Middle East and generally in the whole globe. The all over the world, this is a threat to peace. So what you're gonna do with the threat of peace? You make a diplomacy. You making appeasement with the threat of peace. You need to get rid of them. You need to help the Iranian people to get rid of them, because Iranian people has no support. How come with Iranian people with bare hands to battle or fight against such a regime? It's impossible. How come when the France occupied by the German soldiers, how come the French people can be free but without help? The US troops helped them. The British troops helped them to get back to reclaim their own country. It's similar to Iran. It's very easy to understand. I don't know why the politicians around the world, including the Australian government, cannot understand an easy concept. It's very easy to understand. We don't need funding. We are a rich nation. We don't need funding. We need just help. Help us to get rid of this regime. And this time, now is the golden time to help us.
Right.
Do not reject the Iranian people help. Otherwise, this regime will continue, and this threat is still keeping. Just help the Iranian people, as our Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi said. Two major strategies: put the maximum pressure on this regime, which is happening now by Israel and US, and put the maximum support to the Iranian people. This is our decision to falling down this Islamic regime now.
And I think, when you talk about the wider threat of Iran, I don't think people are really aware at all of you talked about the tentacles of the IRGC, but and their proxies like Hezbollah have these relationships with South American drug lords, and they've been involved in the global drug trade and all forms of criminal means by which to raise money and to get around sanctions. So, you've got this transnational crime dynamic that's been driven largely by Iran. And I was just going to ask too, in relation to the nuclear capacity that Iran has been pursuing, there have been a lot of comments for the last half a century almost on a daily basis of the intent of the regime to destroy Israel, and comments about, yes, well, even if we dropped a nuclear bomb and lots of Muslims died because there are 2 million Israeli Arabs, for example, but, there's then the fallout from a nuclear blast in that area on other Muslim countries around Israel. They seem to think, well, that's just the price of martyrdom, and that martyrdom will give you your reward in heaven with you'll get to paradise, etc. But in exchange for that, we will have wiped Israel off the face of the earth. Were those the sorts of sentiments you were also seeing disseminated in Iran to the Iranian people? To, on what sort of basis was that? Were they very clear about any means that they would use to achieve that objective?
Yes, actually, as I told you, this regime is based on the Sharia law. I can say one example which is very clear, and you can understand what's on their mind, I because I was born before Islamic Revolution. When the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979, I was just 11 years old. And at that time, when the monarchy collapsed in Iran, and a guy, Ayatollah, been selected by the Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic Revolution on that time. That Ayatollah called Khalkhali, he was responsible for the execution of the high official royal generals in the royal army. Okay, all of them, and within 2 minutes sentence court, just 2 minutes,
Right.
without any lawyer, no defending lawyer, nothing at all, just kill this, kill that, like that. And a journalist, I'm not sure from outside or inside, a journalist asked him if it's some of these guys, they were innocent, what happened if they were innocent, and his response was, if he or if they are innocent, they will go to the heaven straight.
Right.
And because of that, they don't care about if they killing innocent people. They believe that if they are innocent and killed by ourselves, they will go straight to the heaven. It's not our fault, because they were God is asking, oh, you were innocent, okay, instead of hell, you can go to the heaven. It's just they mind bias on this. They don't care if they shooting missiles or nuclear weapons to the innocent people. They think about, oh, if they are innocent, they can go to the heaven. It's like that. It's not working. It's they I'm listening to the regime media, and they saying this day 10 or 15 Zionists died or killed. We killed 10 Zionists. So I can see from the other media outside of Iran, they say they're killing a 90 years old Israeli guy. They're killing 11 years old boy, girl. They think about they are Zionists. All of them, they are Zionists, and they deserve to be killed. That's like they thinking like that.
Yes.
And that's the way. That's why I'm saying they are a threat to the peace.
Yes, and we've seen that play out with that very approach that you can label all Jews as Zionists, or anybody who supports the right of Israel to exist. Even it's okay to kill them, and we've seen people in the United States, now acting violently against Jews in America, and the recent murder of those two people outside a Jewish museum in Washington, and the same sort of rhetoric we're seeing sort of amplified here in Australia as well, where Zionists don't deserve to live. Any action you take against a Zionist is legitimate because they just deserve it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
This regime ideologically working, I would say their strategy is they're working on the children in a school when they're young. They bombardment their brain, they brainwash them, and they're talking about the Sharia and such a things. And then gradually when they grow up, they to what is called follow this ideology. So these kind of children, like they have these children around themselves. They grow up, they become an adult, and then they're using these adults for their purpose.
Right.
So that's the strategy they're using during these like 47 years after revolution.
Right.
But luckily, I would say fortunately, these days, the majority of people in Iran, especially young generation, which we called it Generation Alpha or Generation Z, they knew about all these things. And for this reason, every person in Iran, me, myself, Maani, or all of the people in Iran, I would say, they have two different character. One character is when you go to school, when you go to public, because you can't be yourself. You have to say, you have to be very careful what you're saying. You have to
Right.
actually behave the way they like you. And when you come back home, you are totally yourself, a different person. I didn't have a
Right.
chance to live in back in time in the Pahlavi dynasty, but Mani has a good example because he has a taste of that
Right.
time and this. So, but I'm
Right.
reading a book and I always talk with my moms, my parents, my dads,
Mhm.
and they would say me, when I actually look at the picture, I would say, is this Iran? Really? So why would I live in the heaven? It's like you're living in a dungeon every day. That's
Mm.
what happened.
Right. Yeah, I'm just interested too in how they indoctrinate the children because we've seen examples of that. Like with Hamas, they will take kids from the age of 12 and they will begin to train them as shaheed, as martyrs, as they will train them
Yes.
in
Yeah.
weapons and they will be, effectively they've already been recruited into Hamas from the age of 12. And I know that we just in the last program that we talked about looking back at the Iran-Iraq War in 1980 to 1988 and the way they used those children to go and clear minefields, etc. But has there been anything that's continued on from there in terms of how they approach the indoctrination and, I guess, militarization of children? What happens to Iranian kids?
Uh, at the moment, they try to do that. They try to keep their own, strategies in the schools, in unis, and so on. But I can see there are many tremendous examples I've seen. The people, even the children at the school, they are not following. I've seen
Right.
a footage a few weeks ago in the school because early in the morning when they wanted to start the school, they saying some chanting, "That's to America, that's to Israel," and they asking people in front of the microphone, "That's to Israel," and the children they are responding, "That's to Palestine, that's to Palestine." They are
Right.
they are doing it differently. They are not following them. That's
Right.
I'm very proud of those kids in right in the school. They are not. And another example, they painted the floor of the uni in the hallway, where the people have to pass that way. There is no alternative way. They painted the American flag and the Israel flag. The students and the teacher they changed the way and put the other short another way, which is longer, and don't put the steps on the American flag and the Israeli flags.
Right.
But it's very smart. They're very smart. They
Right.
they don't put themselves in a danger, but they sending a clear message to
Hmm.
those Islamic regime and to the outside of Iran. We are not your puppets. We are not your followers. We think differently. We have no issue with the other people. We have no issue with the Americans, with
Right.
Israel, with the Arabs. We've been a peaceful nation before the Islamic Revolution.
Mhm.
When Shah was in power, we have the good relationship with Arabs, with the Israel, with we've been an ally of the United States in the region.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
no issues, and all of those issues and conflict started after the Islamic Revolution.
Because we've seen, I know that back in that period of the late 40s and 50s and into the 60s and 70s, you had a lot of Israeli agricultural experts and other
Yeah.
technicians coming into Iran to help build the Iranian economy and those sorts of, mutually sort of supportive activities, a good relationship in effect at that time. But now, you've seen reports and seen photographs of Iranians putting up posters saying, we don't want your war with Israel, that kind of thing. Just rejecting the concept of Iranians giving up their lives for these sort of imperialist type conflicts that Iran has been pursuing right around the region, which, as you say, that's not about Iran. It really seems to be about restoring the caliphate. So are you seeing, sort of wider, in the spread of that sort of sentiment that, we don't want to be involved in your, warmongering anymore. We don't have a beef with Israel. We just want to get on with our lives, etc.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So you see, my father retired from the Air Force, and he worked for the Royal Air Force before the Islamic Revolution. And I'm very clear. I can remember that he was saying to me, this day there's some, Israelis, engineers that came to Iran to help us. There's seawater desalination, centers in southern of Iran. So, they help us to in many different ways, in some, security organization and many things. We had no issue with the Israelis people. We had the embassy in Tehran, and I don't know why the Iranian people should be, enemy of the Israel. There's no issue. Two ancient nations have good and peaceful relationship with each other, within 2000 years, more than 2000 years, and this Islamic regime is spreading the hatred and the violence against the Israelis or against the Arabs, because of the spreading and establishing his own caliphate all around, the Shia caliphate all around the Middle East, and now it's over. The game
Right.
is over for them.
Right. Well, let's finish on a bit of a discussion about that, the game being over. There's questions been raised about regime change, and we've heard the Israeli government, actually describe this operation as Rising Lion, which is a reference to the old Iranian flag, and saying, hey, we have got nothing. Yes, that's the one there. And saying, look, we've got no beef with the Iranian people. We just want you to live in peace and freedom and to have that relationship back again. Rise up, and take control of your destiny. I mean, what is the chances? What is the chance of there being a successful regime change in the near future in Iran?
I think right now, we should say it's it's a lot of hope. The reason is because people now these days, they asking for Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. So Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is the most actually recognizable, and I would say the most to help people to transition the new government after fall of this regime. So even opposition leader, I would say the monarchists, secular Republicans, some Kurdish, they also believe the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is the only capable person that can do this transition. So after the fall of this regime. So regarding this, people have lots of hope. And inside Iran, it's not happened just today. So during these 47 years, because he is trying and he is always unifying and advocating human rights, secularism, democracy for Iran, and supporting women's freedom. And he is not also seeking any, I would say, power for himself, just hoping and helping Iranian people to, after fall of this regime, to operate a referendum and give this chance to the people of Iran to choose between the monarchy and a republic.
Right.
So According to
So could
what
I
is
just ask though, with this, when you say monarchy, what we're just talking about there is a constitutional monarchy like the UK or Australia, right?
Definitely right.
yes,
Yes,
yeah,
definitely right. He never stopped saying that my mission. He said million times, my mission is the freedom for the Iranian nation. This is my mission, you know. I'm not gonna be to be king or whatever. This is my mission. The selection of the future political system for Iran is the responsibility of the Iranian people, not myself. The
Right.
Iranian people pick up whatever they want. But my mission, before that, we need to free our country. We need to reclaim our country before we can do anything. But after that, after we reclaim our country, after we get back our country from the mullah, from the ayatollah, we can decide it. And this guy is the best guy for ruling the Iranian people, for the country in the transition period. He's making, you know, stability, political stability within the transition period. You know, we need, what is the regime change? What is the requirement for a regime change? One, a leader. Two, a plan. And this leader needs to be supported by many people,
Hmm.
and the plan needs to be clear. This guy has supported by many Iranians inside and outside, and has a plan for the transition area. There is no worry. The French President Emmanuel Macron saying that we are worried about the instability in the Iran. We have this guy. Why you are worried? When you send the Ayatollah Khomeini, you French guys, when you sent Ayatollah Khomeini
Yes.
to the Iran,
Yeah.
United States, they they were worried or no?
Mm.
Tell us the truth. You know,
Yes.
you sent a theocratical, a
Mm.
religious guy to Iran, and they didn't care about the democracy. They didn't care about the secularism. And now we
No.
have a Democrat man. He believes in democracy. He believes in the secularism,
Mm.
separation of the state from the religion. He believes that. He lived for more than 4 decades in the US. And
Mm.
now you don't believe to him. You believe to Khomeini, and now you don't believe to this guy. What are you talking about? Be
Yes.
honest with yourself, you know?
Yeah, French government credibility is a bit lacking in the Middle East when you go back to the Sykes-Picot Agreement, and then,
That's it.
all through that period, and then of course the fact that the French were helping the Iraqis build a nuclear reactor to begin their nuclear program, and then, as you say, enabling and facilitating Khomeini's arrival in Iran, and where things went from there. Not a very positive
Yeah,
contribution
they had
to the region.
ties, economic ties to the Islamic regime, the French guys.
Hmm. Yeah. So this is the thing. I mean, we've seen the Majlis, you have the council there, and there are these show elections that happen in Iran, but effectively it's a theocratic dictatorship, is it not? I mean, you've had Ayatollah Khomeini immediately then handing off to Khamenei, who's been in power for 40 years. He really controls everything, doesn't he? With his sort of supportive organizations like the IRGC, etc.
regarding your question, because the demonstration in Iran during this 46 was on and off and on off, and all these times they just kill the people in the street, and they like suppressed all the peoples. Now, because people have this chance, because they always being empty-handed, they didn't have any equipment, and they couldn't actually overcome with this regime. So now, because Israel, this war, this unwanted war, because it's not our war, it's between the peoples. This war is in the middle.
Right.
It's a help for the people. Now that's the right time, with the support of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. That's why people getting hope even more than any time during these 47 years. So I
Right.
would say yes, people in Iran are very hopeful. They have they are very optimistic this time.
Right. So it seems like the moment is right, and that there would be a clear majority of the Iranian population that would support regime change now after all these
Yes,
years of
yes.
deprivation and repression. So what do you think, should the West be doing to help practically? How does the West, how does governments like Australia, assist in that? What kind of pressure can we bring to bear, or what practical help can we give?
To my understanding, what we are saying, as we have a assembly demonstration tomorrow in front of the New South Wales Parliament,
Right.
we are asking Australian government stopping tight with the Islamic Republic regime. They need to expel the ambassador Ahmad Sadeghi. We asked 1,000 times from the Aussie government to expel that guy. He's a source of hatred against the Jews, against the Iranian protesters. Stop relationship. The government relationship between Australia and the Islamic regime needs to be stopped. And expel the ambassador to send a signal to the Islamic regime. This is game over. Game is
Right.
over. It's finished.
Right.
It's finished. You are surrendered. You are surrendered by Israelis, and you are surrendered, importantly, by the Iranian people. That's what we're requesting the Australian government. That's the minimum request from the Aussie government. Do not support the regime. Regime
Right.
is falling down. What is saying? I think yesterday they closed the Australian embassy in Tehran. The embassy is closed. And I'm not sure the ambassador came back to Australia or not, but expel the Ahmad Sadeghi, the Iranian regime ambassador from the soil of Australia. Send a message to Iranian people that the world is behind the Iranian people, not behind the Islamic regime. That's very important.
Right. And also, one of the things that used to mystify me, I used to be on the Parliamentary Joint Committee for Intelligence and Security here, and often myself and coalition colleagues both concerned that other countries had listed the IRGC and Al-Quds Force as terrorist organisations and taken other measures. And also, we've just had the government take a so-called Magnitsky action against two ministers in Israel, but have never taken any action against leading figures in either the Iranian government when they've said heinous things, or leaders of these organisations which other countries have listed as terrorists, in their businesses, etc. So, do you think the Australian government should be stepping forward in that respect to, take those actions, list them as terrorist organisations?
Dr. Kelly, let be honest with you. It's too late to put the IRGC as a terrorist organization. It is too late. We're shouting on the streets of the Australian capital city for 3 years.
Right.
Our slogan was IRGC terrorists, put them on the list elbow. He didn't listen. Penny Wong didn't listen to us. It's too late. IRGC is gone. It's not the time for putting the IRGC as a terrorist organization. There is no IRGC commanders in Iran. They're all gone by the IDF, by the Israeli jet fighters. There is no IRGC in Iran. It doesn't work. Put them on the list. It doesn't work. It's too late. Just cut the relationship with the Islamic regime. Expel the ambassador, go back to the hell. I don't know. That's what we're asking.
So we want to promote our leader, and we want to listen what the people in Iran say, because they've never been heard by the Australian government before.
Right.
Yeah. He's our representative. He's our Iranian people representative. Talk to him.
Right. So there's been no willingness to respond to your calls to actually meet with the Crown Prince and talk with him at all?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
Right. So that would be, yes, obviously a good step forward, particularly right now, because I could see also, as you've sort of indicated, in a situation where if there is a disintegration of the regime and a push to change, then there'll need to be some element of stability that is introduced into that, and perhaps he could be that element of stability while that transition process is managed and calm the waves a little bit in that post sort of regime transition process or period.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard about recently that some, not the top commanders, the middle commanders in the normal army, because as you know, Iran has two military forces, normal army and the IRGC. Some guys in the middle, not the top, in the middle level, they contacted the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi for following his commands for the future of Iran.
Right. So they accept Crown Prince Pahlavi as a potential interim leader to help them through this, right? Yeah, it sounds like a sensible option. So because we know, the history of regime change in the Middle East hasn't been great, but a lot of people don't understand that also the Persian culture in Iran is different from these other regimes that we've seen.
Completely different, yes.
Yeah. Well, look, what do you think the timeline around this is? How soon do you think there might be a regime change? How likely is it?
You can
I'm very optimistic. Maybe I'm not right, but I'm thinking by the end of this week, something happened. A miracle would be happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So because everyone now knows, especially Iranian people, and I would say Israel and USA, they found that now if this regime overthrown, okay, not only being beneficial for the people in Iran, but also being beneficial for whole Middle East.
Whole Middle East.
To bring the peace, freedom, democracy for whole Middle East. That's what we believe. And I'm very optimistic, maybe by the end of this week.
Right. Oh, from your mouth to God's ear, as they say. But yeah, I mean, I agree so much. I mean, I've been so involved with the Middle East for the last 40 odd years, and really at the bottom of all the instabilities that we're seeing in that immediate region, Iran has always had a finger or a main role in conducting the undermining or attempting to undermine other governments in the region and build that hegemony for their Islamist revolution, which is not actually Islamic at the end of the day. It's a version of it that has fueled and fomented extremist interpretations of Islam right around the region. If you look at it, it seems like the 1979 revolution was the beginning of that creation of those ambitions where the extremists, felt, yes, we can take hold of governments, we can recreate the caliphate. It all really started to multiply and amplify from that point onwards. So, really take your point about the benefit that we could draw for the whole region and the rest of the world. So, well, look, thank you so much, Maani and Minoo. It's been fantastic to talk to you, and we will talk to you again because obviously, as things unfold, we'll need to get your perspective on things. But thank you so much for being so courageous, because we know there is that intimidation that the regime tries to impose on even the diaspora of the Iranian community. And you've also persevered so much in the face of little reception at times from governments, and lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, lack of facts. And the community seems to be missing that more broadly. So we really hope that you can get your messages out there, and I'll do whatever we can to help with that. Thank you. And please stay safe, and we'll look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, and we look forward to talking with you all again.